So a proper welcome to everybody. Good afternoon. Hope you're all well. And it's such a big group. It's so lovely to see so many people giving up your time to come and join us today. So today's workshop is on the voice of the infants or voice of the child. So last month, well, this is a monthly kind of workshop developed by Alex and myself around family practice. And last month in May, we had one on perinatal mental health peer support group. And part of the conversation is actually a lot of that is actually focused on the voice of the infant or voice of the child. And people were asking whether we could have a workshop focusing on that. And at the same time, coincidentally, we noticed a discussion thread on at home asking about plans and tools that would help kind of capturing and recording the voice of the child. So that's why we think we'll prioritize this month workshop on this topic. And it's so encouraging to see so many people passionate about these and come and join us today. So the plan today is quite straightforward. We have Sarah from Homestart Hillingdon. Sarah did a presentation last year, sometime in February, March time, at one of our safeguarding forum on plants. So it's a tool, a template that Sarah and Hillingdon developed to help kind of like capture the voice of the child and use it through the supervision they're kind of embedded within their work. And then we'll have Kumal from Homestart Edinburgh talking about the Shinari indicators. So in Scotland, if you're not familiar, we have a national framework called Getting It Right for Every Child. So we have Shinari well-being indicators as a kind of like a framework to help kind of capture the voice of the infants and record it. So Kamal's talking about how Homestart Edinburgh is going to use it for, has been using that for in terms of like safeguarding children, using alongside with the charity lock as well. So she's going to show us like how they have been doing that. And then we'll have some time for you to ask questions. So some time for Q&A. Alex is going to lead that. We've also got some time for a group discussion. So we've got some questions for you because we know that apart from these two tools, there might be other things that you are doing. There will be other tools that's been used across the network as well. So it'll be good to hear like from you, your experience, how you've been doing that, what are the challenges, so we can have some time to kind of like exchange ideas. And then we'll close it by sharing some of the tools or some of the resources that we've been developing that hopefully will be useful to you. And so, yeah, just to let you know that our plans of going forward. Everything's shared today will be either recorded or sort of shared with a follow-up email after today. So you will be sent an email with all those resources and links as well. So you don't have to like scribble down everything. So just quickly for me to set the scene, I know you all know about these, what's the voice of the child, because you've been doing it every day. So when we talk about the voice of the child, it's not just about the language, just about words, but it's very important that we, through our close observations, through the bots of any cues that we can have, we notice through our interactions with the family and with the babies, with the child as well. So it's not easy to hold all the observations, like for the volunteers, for the staff to do so. So our role within Homestarts and within Homestart UK is to support the volunteers to actually record it onto their supervision paperwork, but also like the diary sheets. How do we actually make use of that? Why is it important? Again, you'd be familiar with that as well. So a lot of the research saying that is very, it helps with safeguarding. So when we listen to the voice of the child, we better understand their needs. We'll be able to support them more effectively and better safeguard them and protect them from harm. But also like from the perinatal infant mental health point of view, by listening to the voice of the child, is actually help release some of the stress of the parents, and they will improve their mental health, but also like improve the bonding with the children as well, because we help them to better understand the needs of the children. But not only that, though, again, I will mention about the volunteers, because when they do it with parents themselves, they hold a lot of information within themselves, and it's by going through that process, through supervision, unloading the emotions, having that safe space to talk about what they have observed, it will improve their own well-being as well. So it's kind of like multiple tiers. And in some of the nations, especially in Scotland and in Wales, this is basically a child's rights. So they have a right to be heard, but also their views to be respected as well. So that includes baby and young children, who don't normally like engage in the public sector consultations or things like that, but they do have a view. So when we provide a support or public services, then that includes us as well to uphold those rights. So without further ado, I'll pass it on to you, Sarah, to talk about plants.
Lovely. Thank you very much. Hello, everybody. As Vicky was saying, I did do a presentation on plants last year as part of a safeguarding forum. And so, yeah, it's lovely to be here again today just to talk again. I haven't sort of gone over everything that I did last time, because I think that all that presentation is still there. I think people are still able to go and look at that. But this is kind of just a little bit of added extra and a little bit more of maybe a deeper dive into what that can actually look like. So I'm the operations manager at Home Start Hillingdon, and what that looks like for us is I oversee all of the delivery work, so all of the families, all of the staff, all of the volunteers, all of the actual work, so none of the fundraising or the strategic, that kind of stuff, but all of the actual delivery is under my under my watch. Really looking forward to kind of talking a little bit more about this today. So we, again, like Vicky just said, this is something that we came to the conclusion that we really needed a little more focus on this voice of the child. We've always had the voice of the child the child at the heart of our support. Always, that's what it's about, isn't it? It's about enhancing the life chances of children, and we kind of recognised that maybe we weren't capturing that information as well as we could, and that was part of our QA process a couple of years ago. So since then, we thought, we really need a better way to really kind of put this down on paper and really be able to track what's going on in capture this voice of the child. Again, we're very committed to keeping their voice and well-being at the heart of everything, and what we could really see is that if we weren't capturing that properly, then we might be missing opportunities for looking at where the support is needed and getting that support in early, that we might miss or have gaps in understanding potential concerns. That was something that we were definitely concerned about, but also that we were missing opportunities to really recognise the impact, and because our work is so parent focused for everybody, we all know this, don't we? It's so focused on the parents that sometimes even though we're doing it for the child's benefit, sometimes that can really, the impact on the children is not necessarily being recorded in a way that it could be, and that would be helpful. So what we decided to do was to kind of develop a tool so that we could use in supervision, and that would give us somewhere really directly to write about think about the child's lived experience, and really make sure that this was kind of front and center to the support and everything that we were doing, and that led us to kind of work on this thing that we call plants. And it sort of took a little bit of time to kind of work out how to kind of fit this all together. But yeah, Vicky, if you wouldn't mind the next one, thank you. Thank you. So I was aware of some of the other tools around this, and was kind of looking at them and sort of thinking about how we could build something that we felt really worked for us. And this is what we came up with. So again, just having those acronyms, those kind of headings of different areas of a child's life, and kind of having something, like I say, focused to work off. So this is what we came up with, and I really liked the sort of the analogy of plants, the fact that, you know, children are like little plants and they're growing and changing and all the rest of it. So P is for play. So thinking about what play resources that children have, what toys, what activities and things that they have access to. Are they age and developmentally appropriate for them? Do they have parents who can engage in meaningful play with them? Is there a wide variety of things, maybe not just lots of screen time, but opportunities for child-led play, that kind of thing. So spending some time looking at this area and what that kind of looks like, because we know that obviously for young children, this is their education. This is what we mean by learning when we're talking about young children, and how incredibly important that is. The L is for love, and thinking about attachment between the child and the parents, thinking about what nurturing do they get, what sort of love and comfort and care and all that kind of area, and really sort of focusing in on what that looks like and what that feels like for the child. So that's love. And then we have appearance. So thinking about how the child is presented, thinking about whether they're wearing the right type of clothes for the weather, going out with coats on, or, sun cream on, or whatever the right thing is. Can you tell if a child, I mean, we're probably not going to be there a lot while the child is bathed necessarily, but, can you tell by looking at this child that they are, that they're regularly clean and bathed and washed and all that kind of thing. And then we have nourishment. So we're thinking about what a child is eating. Do they have a wide variety of food? Is the food that they're eating, is it not just, kind of packet food, but is there some fresh food in there? Water, drinks, that kind of thing. Thinking about their nourishment as a whole and what they're having access to. Then we've got Thrive. So this is a bit more of an open kind of subject heading. Gives you the chance to maybe include lots of different things, because obviously Thrive includes lots of different things. But some of the things we might be thinking about are, lots of our parents find it very overwhelming to go outside, as I'm sure yours do. So thinking about children that maybe inside a very small space a lot of their time, so not getting fresh air, not having the chance to socialize with other people. This could include accessing healthcare and dentists and things like that, which we know can be very problematic. Health needs, all that kind of thing. Going to early years settings, accessing local, that type of thing. So it's a bit more of a wider thing. And if things don't necessarily fit, then Thrive can normally kind of, you can pop it in there. It's normally a helpful place to put things. And the last one is safety. So really straightforward, obviously thinking about how children are kept safe inside and outside of the house, including being kept safe from other potentially harmful people. So this is what we landed with, and we've been using this now, these acronyms now for, like I say, for the last couple of years, and it's going really well, and we are have tweaked it slightly and moved it on slightly, but it's this is kind of fundamentally the kind of the basis of what we're using. Thank you, Vicky. The next one. So this is how we use it. So we use it in volunteer supervision. So we'll start off with a bit of a general update. And then we really try and like to start, we've put it at the top of our supervision form, because, supervisions can be quite lengthy and there's often lots to discuss. And we didn't ever want it to be something that dropped off the end. We really wanted to make sure that it was really a focused part. So we put it right near the beginning of our supervision form. And we really sort of, again, to make sure that the children are kept as their priority. So again, we start, and the volunteers get used to it the more that they use it. So the first time it's very much, it's always led by a member of staff, but very much to start with, then there's a lot of kind of lots of questions and lots of, tell me about this and what have you noticed about that. And actually what we realize is that the more we get into the swing of it, the more the volunteers do it. They know what we're going to be asking. They know what that's going to feel like during supervision. So they'll really be coming with lots to say towards, the more they get used to it, because it's something that's really become really familiar to them. So we start building up this picture. We're not looking for positive or negative information. We're just looking for factual and non-judgmental information. We're not making, it's difficult, isn't it, when you're talking about somebody else's voice who doesn't have a voice necessarily. Obviously, we do have to make presumptions in a way, but we are really trying to keep things, really factual about what we can see, what we've observed, and what we know is going on, and kind of keeping to as factual information as we possibly can. The way that we do this, we use this as a growing document. So we start off with the blank plants kind of section to start with, and we add lots of information in to start with, and then for the next supervision we're copying and pasting that information into the new document, so that first one is still there, it's still untouched, it's not going to go anywhere, and then we start adding to it. We start looking through it and evaluating it and adding changes if we need to, or taking things out, adding things in, whatever that looks like. And then so that as you sort of see them, you can sort of track them. If you put those supervisions sort of side by side, you can see if, hopefully there has been lots of changes and lots of positive changes, but also it will tell you if, it's also very helpful to see that there haven't been any changes sometimes in respect to making onward referrals and that type of thing, when you can evidence that by the rest of the document telling you, well, we're offering this, this, that and the other support, and actually things are still looking quite the same for this child. So that's why we use it as a growing document. So every time we look at it carefully, it's not just being copied and pasted and just used again for the sake of it. It's really being looked at to see, is this information still relevant and is this still correct? So we add in that every time. That then really helps us think about the rest of our supervision document, where we're looking at what is the volunteer doing, what's the coordinator doing, and really helping us formulate those plans. So obviously we've made a plan to start with at the initial visit, but this is where we can really start honing down what it is that we're doing, because obviously we're doing what the parent wants us to do, of course we are, but there's all this extra value that we can add from a volunteer, adding in things that we can identify. Maybe the parent can't identify that there's some more help that they might need in an area, and actually this really helps us to really do that in that kind of very gentle home start sort of way. So this is kind of why, again, we like to keep it at the beginning, so that when we're really thinking about reflecting on what the volunteer's been doing over the past few weeks, then and looking at, right, what can we do going forward, and how, what further support and help can we put in. And again, this has been a document that's really helped us when doing onward referrals to children's social care. Mostly it's really helping us to see, actually, we're making a great impact and this is really great, and actually what life looks like for the child is quite different once we've finished our support than it is when we started, and that's a brilliant thing in itself. But also what it's helping us to do is when there are those families that are finding it difficult to move on and our support isn't quite hitting the spot with them, those kind of more low-level neglect type of cases, it can be really difficult with children's social care. Certainly in our area, can be very difficult to reach thresholds and that kind of thing, and actually us saying, but actually we've done this and we've tried this and we've seen this, and having a bit more kind of ongoing look at what's going on actually has been really helpful. That's how we use it. Now, what I'm aware of is that since I did the plants presentation in the Safeguarding Forum last year, that other people have taken this and you put it into their diaries, and and volunteers I think they've added it to their diary sheet. so something's being filled out, before it gets to supervision. I also saw on the intranet the other day that a family are using it in initial visits and review visits, and I think that's fantastic. It's not how we use it, but fantastic. If that feels a helpful thing for people to use in different ways, then yeah, that's absolutely great. But yeah, this is how we do it, and this is how we're kind of trying to ensure that the child is having we're keeping their voice. So this is kind of a bit of a simple example of a first supervision. There's not loads, we're not writing loads and loads because supervision is already quite long, and so we're kind of careful about there's so much you could write. You could write so many details in here, so we're really kind of careful not to kind of write too much. But obviously this is all coded as it is in our supervisions, and we're just, what we're trying to really capture is, okay, what is happening in these different areas. So you'll see that this was a family where things were quite tricky, and there wasn't a lot of interaction between the mum and the children. The older child was out of the house a lot, so there's not a lot about her in this, because she was out of the house a lot. And there's not a lot about Dad as well, because also he was working from home for the first couple of weeks and was around, but then wasn't. So we can't capture things that we're not seeing. But what you'll see is us trying to stay away from saying mum does this and dad does this. Then we're very much trying to say, looking at what the child is getting and what the child is having, and what is happening for them. So it's just some brief notes in each section, and just kind of making some observations that the volunteer has brought into this. And I really like what you said earlier about this really helping the volunteers, Vicky, because it really does, when they're able to really get this stuff off of their chest, particularly when it's a challenging family. I think they really do appreciate the opportunity to really give all these details over, because then they know it's not sitting with them, and it's sitting with us, and there's a bigger picture. So I've done another. So I've taken there's three supervision documents there, and you'll see that. So this, when you compare the two next to each other, then you can see that actually there's not a massive amount of difference, and that's because there wasn't a massive amount of difference. There was this was, like I say, a family that took a really long time, and a really kind of long time to build up a relationship. So lots of the information is the same, and that's not just because we've copied and pasted, but it is because the information was the same, and that we hadn't managed to do anything and move this family on particularly. So there's a couple of good things there. So there was a note about the mum, the child having slightly more physical affection from mum, as she'd been sitting, and mum had been kind of bringing her to sit her on her lap more often. So that felt an improvement from last time. And I think again, we hope that was because there was a lot of modelling going on from the volunteer, and in the volunteer outcome section bit of our supervision, that was something we would really had asked the volunteer to really help with, lots of modelling and lots of play and that kind of thing. So this family were one of those families that were in the house a lot, and that the youngest child in particular didn't really leave the house at all, and mum was very resistant to leaving the house. So you can see that sort of that as a picture here. That was a real struggle. But we got to after this supervision. So if we go into the next one, what you'll see is quite a big difference actually, and things started to click slightly, and things were particularly around feeding, and around, so I think the parent by this stage had really kind of begin to trust her volunteer, and really felt comfortable with her to go out, and they were attending the children's centre every week, and that was amazing. And because of attending the children's centre every week, she noticed that her little one really enjoyed the books, and it would always make her access to the books, so she bought some more books for her child, this kind of thing. So we're kind of you're really sort of starting to see a change in how things are going here, and we were able to talk about in the safety section, we could only see how they were being kept safe in the house, but now we could talk about how they were being kept safe outside of the house as well. There were still issues here, and there was still problems going on around the food and this kind of thing. There was still, and that's documented here, but the certainly the way that the relationship between mum and then dad when he was being seen there was definitely a shift in the way that they were talking about the child and that kind of thing. So that's been really lovely. So yeah, this is like I say, how we use this document to grow and to change, and then to impact directly on what it is that we are, so we're seeing that's great. There's changes for this child. We can see where the changes aren't for this child, because again, they're documented as well. And then we can talk with the volunteer more about that. And also when we have permission to talk to other professionals around the family as well. I've had a lot of input from the health visitor, who is very involved with this family, and concerns and that kind of thing. And again, it's a really helpful thing for her as well to understand what's going on. So that's what it looks like for us. That's how it goes. The challenges for us. So initially, it was moving from that change of being more general around things. So this kind of, everything's great. Well, yeah, that child's really well cared for. Well, how do you know that? What there's that doesn't saying that is wonderful, but what tells us that child is really well cared for, and kind of really trying to move away from mum does this and mum does that, and flipping that to the child receives this and the child experiences this, and again just trying to keep that voice kind of centered there. We really worked on that via kind of training sessions for staff, and for those that were finding that a bit more tricky, maybe who had been here maybe for a little longer and kind of really wanted to it's harder when you've been doing something else. We use supervision to really kind of look at that and kind of lead that forward. And we also provide training to our volunteers as well, because obviously the more that they're aware of what we need from them, the easier it is, because then both sides, it just works a little bit easier. So we put a bit into our prep training around it, so that they knew about it from the start, and then we did some we added it to our kind of annual training, so that they can feel really comfortable with that. For us in the future, we are thinking about moving to rather than talking in the third person, but talking from the child's voice, and saying I enjoy rather than they enjoy. When our director joined some training the other day on voice of the child, and that was one of the suggestions. And actually I really like that, and really feel that's a good way forward. And I'm annoyed that I haven't done it already. Actually, I'm annoyed that I haven't thought to do that. So yes, I think we're probably very likely to be moving in that direction. And then for next steps for us are also thinking about considering whether we are going to put them in our diaries, and thinking about how that works, not to replace it, but as an added thing, and whether that's suitable, and kind of thinking about how if that's something we want to do. The tricky part for us, so I'm going to be really interested to hear what Komal's saying about about how their stuff gets recorded into CLOG, is that we don't have a specific way of capturing data. So we've got these documents here that you can look back and you can see and you can track, and that's all great, and you can recognize the impact. That's all lovely, but you being able to use that as specific data going forward into funding applications and impact reports and stuff like that, it's harder to do. So that's where we are at this moment, and myself and Vicky and my director were chatting this through the other day, and thinking this again, how can we move this forward? How can we put this into something that's more, can be captured in that different way? So that's kind of where we are with this, really, and that's what we're looking to do next. But I would say in general, it's been a very positive change for us. I think other people that have used it have also reported that it's been very positive for them as well, and that it's something that it's easy to use. It's not complicated at all. It's sort of there's nothing massively to explain. It's not rocket science. People can understand what it is that you're trying to get out of it, and it's absolutely benefited support that families and children get, essentially because of the way that we're able to look at things in just a slightly different way, in a more introspect sort of way. Yeah, and that's it really. That's all from me.
Thank you so much, Sarah. I think you give us a lot of food for thoughts, especially around how we can embed this into like the whole system within Homestart. So it's not just an isolation using like with volunteers, but throughout how do we use it from maybe yeah, funding application up to like reporting, demonstration impact and those kind of things. Can I ask if those Homestart you have adapted plans and have been using that, we'll love to hear from you. If you've got any feedback, you can share at the groups or even on the chats. I think Sarah and I will be, yeah, we'll love to hear from you. Okay, and I'll stop share and I'll pass it on to you, Kamal, to talk about how, yeah, Homestart Edinburgh kind of capture the voice of the infants.
Thanks, Vicky. Thanks, Sarah, for that presentation. I love hearing people call it clog because it sounds so cute when it's actually the opposite of cute. But hi, everyone. I'm Komal. I'm the manager of impact and evaluation at Homestart Edinburgh. And I'm going to be, talking a little bit about how we work with Charity Log to track data regarding safeguarding for children. So I'll go ahead and share my screen. Cool. Perfect. So first of all, a little bit of background of what it used to be. So in the past, we had a safeguarding lead come in once a quarter, and they would basically do an audit of our safeguarding forms. This safeguarding lead mentioned that while these forms were good at managing risk, it didn't talk about what it meant for the child. And as Sarah pointed out, the whole point of us is to center the child at everything we do. And so to have a safeguarding form that didn't center the child felt a bit counterintuitive. So our current system basically has quarterly reports that we send over to our safeguarding leads. We also have this all integrated into Charity Log, and that also includes child's voice. We talk about protective factors. So what are existing things that the family are doing that mitigate risk, and also look at what kind of holistic support exists for the child. So this also is fed through the protective factors. It also tracks our concerns by GRFIC indicators, and then we tie all of that with our diary sheets that volunteers fill. So rather than me talking about it, let's go over to Charity Log and look at it. So this is one of our families. We basically have created an extension database that lives on this mini menu on the left. So we click on safeguarding, and if we click on enter new safeguarding review, this is sort of what shows up. So for each of our safeguarding concerns, we have a date, we input the family members. You can sort of add context to what the questions are asking you. And then the type of concern. So we've got well-being concern, child protection, adult protection, child planning, and children's reporter. And then we have our GRFIC indicators. So which indicator does this concern most align with? We pick that, and then description of concern. So bit of context to include any strategies to address the issue, summarize any previous concerns, and then all of our safeguarding concerns, I'm sure it's similar for you, would go from volunteer to coordinator to senior staff member. So all of that sort of gets reported over here. We have the child's voice or the children's voice. So how is the children's voice being heard and listened to? What's the child communicating about, and how does this concern impact the child? So I feel like these sort of guidelines help contextualize what's supposed to go in there. And then here are the protective factors that we mentioned on the slides. So what are existing strengths that the family has that can be utilized? I feel like oftentimes we might be falling into a trap of, having a sort of deficit outlook on some families, but I think with thinking about protective factors, we're really pushed to think about what actually is working for them, and what are they doing well, because I think that also builds their own confidence. And then we also talk about where is this information being shared. So has it been shared with the referrer, parent carer, health visitor, social worker, police? And if it was shared with the parent, what are they saying about the concern? So this way, I think we're able to capture all of the different perspectives, and that sort of speaks to the holistic approach to these safeguarding concerns. And then we have actions. So what comes next? Those get written down over here, and then these reviews are always concerned by a senior member, and they input their date and their concern over here. So that's a little bit about the extension database. And I want to show you the diary sheets. And then I'm going to show you an example of what a report looks like when we actually pull a report from the safeguarding extension database. So this is an example of our diary sheets. Why does it look like it's on an iPhone? There we go. So basically, this is how we gather our diary sheets from our volunteers, and we get information about their coordinators, their family charity log number, and details about the visit. So all of these details would then show up on the family's charity log site. So everything gets recorded over there. And then the next page asks about the volunteers' reflections on the visit. So this way, in addition to capturing what this means for the family, we're also able to capture what it means for the volunteer, how their what their experience has been, what their perspective is, because you know, volunteers are at the heart of what we do, and it's important to gather all perspectives. So those are the two sort of tools that we use. So let's go over and look at a report that I pulled for a couple safeguarding concerns. So this is an example of what it would look like. Depending how on how your extension database is set up, you could have way more information on this. For example, like demographics of the family. You can have their family circumstances. You could have all of that in one report, but this is just a safeguarding report. And we get the org ID for our families, their name, the date for the concern. Here's the family members, what type of concern is it? So this would be just well-being concern. And then here are the GRFIC indicators. So this one aligns with safe. The next one, they're all safe. This one's nurtured. Yeah, so then we get the description of the concern. So I'll stay here for a minute if you just wanted to review it and see what it looks like from a reporting perspective, and I'll be quiet so you can actually look at it. Okay, so hopefully you've had a chance to glance over it a bit. And what's helpful with this is that because it's all onto Charity Log, and we can do this one big report throughout the year, we could do it throughout multiple years, we could do it throughout a quarter. We're able to look at what are the trends in the concerns. Maybe we can look at like what's something that's common happening around December. Are there more child protection concerns around December? Are there more during the summer months when kids are off school? So you can see sort of trends that are coming up, but then also you can see just like if you could track one family across certain months. But then what helps with this is that in addition to our safeguarding lead taking a look at this, the seniors are able to sit with this and think about, all right, these are all the concerns that are coming up. This is the most common one. What is it in our support that could change to address this concern? Or what is it that we could be doing differently so that volunteers feel more confident in addressing this concern, or our staff feel more confident in connecting them to other third sector organizations to sort of mitigate these risks. So yeah, so that is a report example. So I've just picked sort of 4 families in this scenario. So that was safe. Let's look at this nurtured one. So the protective factors are the father and the grandma, and then we can go over and look at if there were any actions. So there is an action with this one, and it's to continue to support mom and dad on how to meet the baby's emotional needs. And then this is reviewed by a senior. So this has been reviewed over here. And then we can also see all of our concerns by CIMD, by postcode, by county. And as I mentioned before, we could also add on different layers of demographics. We can add on ages. So that's the benefit of adding it to Charity Log, because then you can have like very nuanced data instead of just sort of quite static. So that's sort of an example of a report that we would pull. So a couple benefits of moving to this system is one, of course, the representation of the child. Second is now we can have chronological data. So what happens from, April 1st to March 31st? Where are the dips? Where are the highs? Why are they happening? How can we address them? This way, we also have a regular review of concerns. So if a senior is assigned a review, that shows up on their charity log, so they get a reminder to review the safety concern. Another thing is that it's low admin work. There's not a lot of paperwork, and it's all happening on one system. And hopefully with this extension database, it seems quite straightforward. And with the added context that you can put in for what each of those things mean, if it feels more more intuitive filling it out. And then lastly, like I said, wherever we see gaps, it helps us to inform our practice and improve it so that the child is always at the center, and we're able to shape our support based on evidence. So yeah, those are a couple benefits. That's the gist of how we do what we do. Thank you.
Thank you, Kamal. I think we've got a couple of questions on the chat. I think people are interested in how from the Microsoft Forms to your database and how it actually talks to Charity Log. I think that's that's how that's what the question is in the chat.
Right. So yeah, so the Microsoft form unfortunately doesn't link directly to Charity Log. One day maybe they have that system, but what that means is that the coordinator or admin assistant would manually then enter that. But it's basically recorded in the Family Volunteering Support Project, and it talks about what the volunteer did with them, the date of it, and stuff like that. But I'm also reading other questions. There was one about where in Charity Log we can access the safeguarding review. Good news and bad news. Good news is that everyone can have this safeguarding review. The bad news is that they don't build it. We have to build it ourselves. So basically in Charity Log, you're able to go in and create an extension database, and you can design it however you want it. And this is how we've designed ours. So for example, if you wanted to add plants to that, you can add the GIRFIC indicators and plants over there. Yeah, so if you are interested in, creating a safeguarding extension database and you need help with it, reach out to us. I'll just go through and see if there's any other questions.
We can include your contact details, Kamal, in our circulation. So if people want to reach out to you, I think it probably, because you need to really show it how to do it in one-to-one. So yeah, it might be easier for them to reach out to you. But I'm also kind of cautious about the time that it would take your team to actually showcase what you've been creating as well.
Yeah. Well, reach out and we can see what we can do.
Okay. I was gonna hang on to that until the end, but I was because I just saw your questions about asking Sarah to share the plans and all the kind of the tools. I just want to show you a quick sneak peek of the stuff that Alex and I have been developing. So Sarah talked a lot about the supervision and that's connected to the plans and the voice of the child. So this is something that we've been doing in the past kind of a year or so with a group of elites local home starts looking at developing a supervision and reflective practice toolkit. So hopefully we should be able to launch the level 1 in August, September time. And it will look like something like these. So within the toolkit, you will have sort of level 1, 2, and 3. So 3 levels. Level 1 is very introductory level. That's we kind of tailor to cater for volunteers, but also staff members as well. So especially staff don't have the line management responsibility. So they understand why is it important to actually think about plants, think about voice of the infants, for example. So within that, we have some guided learning. Hopefully that will work. Come on. So yeah, we'll talk about the concepts. Within each of these, we'll also have some kind of quick videos that volunteers can watch in their own time. They don't have to log on to at home. But they can sort of like use YouTube to watch it. And one of those, if I can remember it right, is part 4. So 4B is about voice of the child. We talk about like why is it relevant to reflective practice. We talk about like how actually helps with your emotions, help with your well-being. So hopefully that's because Sarah, you mentioned about the training as well. So that would take away some of the kind of the capacity from your team that you can actually signpost them to some central resources. So here you go. That's my shameless plug of like what we've been doing, and hopefully that will be helpful and useful for the network. Any other questions for our presenters, for Sarah and Komal?
Can I just say, Kamal, I was really interested in Sarah from your 2 things. I think I think it's a great example from when we come together as a network and sharing ideas, that I think what Kamal you were doing with the Shinari, that actually Sarah, something similar. Do you use Clog? Yeah, so that actually that if you were able to, copy something similar as a database, that would be a fabulous way, wouldn't it, of moving up. That was your
Absolutely,
your next step.
Yeah. So can I ask the difference between the extension database, that's not a rocker. The rocker is still a separate thing, Kamal, for you, is it?
No, I don't know what a rocker is. Sorry. Oh,
'Cause it
Roca,
looks-
ROCA.
Yes. Sorry,
No, it's not the same.
it's not the same. Yeah, because there's a similarity to it. There's a kind of a bit of a crossover. It looks a little bit like ours, but yeah.
Yeah, and we also no longer use Roca. Sorry, I have a colleague right here helping me with these answers. He's telling me.
Yeah.
But you could do a data. I mean, you could include the rocker as part of that database, couldn't you? If you were looking at ways to have the voice of the child, the plants, or whatever it is that you're using alongside the rocker, there would be no reason not to do that. Sian, you've got your hand up from Homestart London.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you both of you for really interesting presentations, lots of food for thought. Sarah, we were actually talking about your tool yesterday in our, we have a London volunteer leads meeting every quarter, and they're using this in Merton. And Heather there was saying that they'd had some really positive feedback from volunteers. I was just wondering, in terms of what you're kind of a little further along the journey in Hillingdon, what has the feedback been from volunteers? How have they found using this tool? Has it helped them to kind of change their practice? You touched on this.
Absolutely it has, because I think it just gives that little more in-depth look than maybe what was happening previously. We always talked about it, obviously we did, but doing it in that sort of more specific way. And like I say, they come ready and prepared now with, I know what you're going to ask me, I know what I've seen, and I think while they're even there, I think you volunteers say to us, while they're on their visits, not that they're sat there thinking specifically about it, but things are just kind of going in easier when they have that sort of framework in mind. And then, like I say, then they're coming and then they're passing that along. and I think it, you know, as we were saying earlier, it feels just more satisfying to them, because then they know that they've got all that information out, and they know that they've passed all of that along, the worries, the great stuff, whatever it may be, and so it sort of feels yeah, and like I said, there's been nothing but positive feedback around it, and more, yeah, and just, yeah, helpful for everybody really. So yeah, it's been a good thing. Thank you.
Right. It sounds like it's just changing the mindset and getting people to kind of focus in on details that they perhaps know are there but wouldn't, you know, usually pick up on.
And getting those down on paper, and seeing that, and then being able to read that back and look at that. So yeah, it's a good, it's been a really good helpful thing. Yeah.
It's also really interesting to hear you grappling with how to use that potentially for impact data, because we're working on another project that's all around school readiness with Camden and Islington and Southwark. So we kind of integrated something similar, but with a more school readiness, and it came from this came from a different place of we need to show outcomes for children, and we're still at the early stages, but we're kind of working alongside a researcher to look at how we develop a framework to make sense of the data, because it collects so much kind of rich qualitative data, but it's then how you translate it. So obviously when we kind of go through that process, we'd be happy to kind of share anything that we find useful in terms of managing.
Yeah, lovely. Yeah, that would be great. Absolutely.
And do also, if you would share with Vicky and Aishan, that would be really helpful, we think.
Yeah, absolutely.
Catherine, Homestart, Richmond, Kingston. I know that this is a little bit mean because I'm really putting you on the spot. I do know about your wonderful project because I've been in touch with Christiana through its inception, but I don't know if you'd be happy just to tell everyone a little bit about it. And I think some of the learning is sort of that Sarah has talked about probably echoes some of your own learning, or certainly what I'd learnt from Christiana.
Yeah, absolutely. And the feeling as I'm listening to you, Sarah, and Kamal, and general work that's going on is, once again, we're all doing fantastic things in very similar veins and don't necessarily know what each other's doing. And I think for us, this project came out of our director, Christiana, and our chair, with a contact through University of Cambridge and the PEDAL team, which I am now going to be put on the spot trying to remember exactly. Play something learning. Anyway, wonderful group that is all around early years and capturing, understanding, responding to the voice of the child. So we've come up with our own little acronym that we've been piloting with volunteers for both just a little thoughtfulness before they go into the family home, what they're thinking about, and keeping that focus on the child's worldview, then on what's happening around the child and the environment, and then that kind of reflective practice. How do I then respond to that as the volunteer and kind of come back around again? And just so it's in some ways very simple, in some ways too complex. So it's really interesting to hear about the plants acronym, just focusing very much on the child's view and capturing all of that without trying to build in the reflective practice as well. Do we break things out a bit more? How do we make it accessible? We've had really good feedback from volunteers, again, in terms of their feeling of well-being, reflection, thoughtfulness, being able to get all that out in supervision, and again, just coming at it from the worldview of the child, thinking about what is it like for you right now, little one? What are you seeing? What are you feeling? How am I understanding your cues? So it's early days. That the same battle with qualitative data. We've got such rich qualitative data. How we kind of get an overview of that and feed that into impact on other aspects, and rolling it out into the wider volunteer body. It's already integrated into supervision, but then how it then comes into our own team supervision, into our reflective practice as an organization, what we're seeing as the trends and needs with families from the viewpoint of the child, and then building that into our strategic process. So it goes the whole way through. So I'll stop talking now. But that's
Thank
us,
you.
but it feels like such
Yeah.
commonality. So let's keep talking.
Yeah. I think there's a massive commonality, and thank you so much. And I apologise for putting you on the spot, but I really wanted you to have a chance to tell everyone also about the great work that you're doing. And interestingly, Pedal are the same team who worked with Homestart UK, creating the latest Healthy Happy Homes play and neurodiversity training. So that's just a quick plug for that if anyone hasn't come across it. It's a really nice piece of training for volunteers created by Pedal. I'm just and also just to also say that, you know, there is this great work coming together, and I do think sometimes as a network we struggle to come together and share and build on what we're all doing, and with the supervision and reflective practice toolkit that Vicky and I have been working hard on, that we will in terms of something like voice of the child and reflective practice and curiosity and data, that we're really trying to pull together all of the great stuff that we know is going on across the network and sharing it in a toolkit that can be used by each local Homestart in ways that you find helpful. There were a couple of have we got time for a few more questions, Vicky? I know you wanted, there was a good question from Michelle, who was saying a question to you, Sarah, about plants, that if you have a kind of standard guidance to allow volunteers to assess the different criterias alongside your
I mean, it's difficult, isn't it? Because obviously we have, as we all do, have such a variety of volunteers with different skill sets and understanding and all the rest of it, which is why I think probably we haven't so far gone down the diary route, because it's very much led by the member of staff, and obviously we're fully aware that people are very subjective about things, and you know, what one person can go into a family home and think, oh my gosh, it's so cluttered and so awful, it's so this, because their own standards are very high, and another person will say, well, that's perfectly fine, you know. So we're always kind of bearing that in mind, really, which is why it's very staff led, even though they are, you know, they're getting better. And there are some, you know, we have volunteers that are children's centre staff and ex-midwives and things and all the rest of it that come with and can maybe bring extra layers of things to us. But we are very aware of that, and making sure that the member of staff is really kind of leading everything, and that and we're using our own observations of when we went into the family home and when we meet the family, when we talk to the family. So it's kind of building up that picture, really, isn't it, between everybody? Because I appreciate that it's they are essentially untrained, aren't they? They're not necessarily people who do have necessarily have a great understanding, but so yeah, your answer to that would be it's very staff led, very much so. Yeah.
So that probably leads to Zoe's question around, did you kickstart this journey with staff training?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So that was because, again, they're the ones leading all this, so they had to be on board and they had to feel comfortable. And there absolutely was a worry that we were making the supervision form too long. Absolutely. And that was a very valid concern, which is why I said earlier that there's not tons and tons and tons of writing in there. That could be 10 pages long, couldn't it? That plant section with all the things. It has to be concise. We pulled back from another part of supervision, so it was like, right, let's pull this back so that we don't need quite so much of that now. This is our focus. So there was a kind of a bit of a payoff, and they could understand it, but it absolutely started with getting them on board, doing training with them, helping them understand what we're trying to achieve. And that was really helpful from the QA, actually, because the QA really highlighted to us that actually we're not doing this as well as we could have done, and they could see that as well, they could understand that as well. So yes, absolutely, pulled something back, made something a little bit less, and then did lots of training with them to help them get into the swing of it. Yeah,
great.
And there was,
you.
sorry, I think there was another one as well. Oh yes, creating, do we create our own training for volunteers around child-centered discrimination? And yeah, I mean, to be honest, everything, it has just been created from us, and we're just kind of making it work for us. So again, we're always looking for, you know, ways to improve that. So again, with this toolkit, if there's going to be other things that we can do better, then great, you know, we'll happily go with that. We were just trying to make something. So yes, I did. I just created the training, and like I say, we put it into our prep course. Just made what we felt was appropriate, and then like I say, added it to our annual stuff as well. So yeah, it was just something, and I obviously used reputable things, you know, taking quotes and things from reputable places, but essentially I made it up. Yeah.
Great, thank you. I don't think there are any more questions. Shall we move on to groups, Vicky?
Yes, so thanks, Alex. Let me share my screen. So we've prepared 4 questions for you to go into a smaller group discussion. I've also put it in the chat column as well. So just once you go into the room, then you will lose the screen share. 20 minutes. We've got 20 minutes. If you're running out of time, I think the useful thing for us to know, it's number 1 and number 3. So what are you actually using at the moment? Do you have other tools apart from like plans or Shinari that you're using that would be useful for us to know and perhaps like help share with the network? How do you embed it within your system? Either like supervision, diary sheets, any review, appraisal, how do you do that? What are the biggest challenges for you? Because I think some of them may be tested and tried out by other homestats as well, and they might actually have solutions already that we can take away, or something that Alex and I can actually develop to support the network on, if that's a collective request, something that we can look at. And yes, and if you use any of the data for any kind of other purposes. So I think Chris is going to do the magic of Zoom, that is beyond
Chris, do you want to just wait 1 second, because there seem to be people are giving their apologies that they have to leave. So if we let people that need to go now go, otherwise you're going to set up groups and there might not be anybody in them because everyone will have disappeared. So if you have to go, thank you so much, and we will send you everything that we've talked about today. And if not, hold tight, and then we'll go into groups. We'll see how many. Yeah, we're down to about 30 participants. Chris.
Yeah, I'll just give it 1
maybe
second.
5 groups.
Okay, shall I open them now, Alex?
Yeah. What? Yep.
Okay.
Like 25 past.
There we go.
I
think you
haven't
should
been
be able
assigned
to-
one. Should I just join whichever one?
Yeah, I did it just in case you didn't, just so you can just jump around into whichever one you want. So
Cool. See you soon.
Yeah, I think I might go and join. I might as well. Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
I'm going to go in room 4, I think.
Of 3.
do you want me to put you in one, Sarah, or are you staying in here? Oh, you're on mute, Sarah.
Sorry. Yeah, I'm happy for you to put me in a group. I don't mind at all. Yeah.
Just see which someone hasn't joined. Vicky's there. It's there. Okay, so room 1. There we go. All right. I don't know if you got. Oh,
Zoom sort of room switch, knowing, yeah, whether you have actually finished the conversation. Hope that's useful. I just noticed that we've got a lot smaller group now. We've got a few minutes left. Just like anybody or from any groups, you've got any kind of burning questions or anything that's useful to sort of share with the wider group. I'm not going to sort of ask feedback from each group, but anything you want, like it's worth highlighting, worth Alex and I to be aware of in terms of like developing the toolkit. It would be good to include that. Any barriers that you think that it would be useful for us to be aware of and sort of start thinking about supporting the network on? Anything like that? Stunned silence.
I think there's definitely something around converting it or using it, not just for a practice tool, but for that impact measurement, and just how you manage that data and how you make sense of it in terms of that kind of analytical framework. Perhaps thinking about that more broadly would be good and helpful, because it's such a resource issue as well in terms of teams being overstretched and having that capacity to deal with the data in a meaningful way. That's just my thought.
That's echoed in our group as well. Using it for impact and reporting, demonstrating impact, but also parents' engagement. So how do we involve parents in terms of, the sort of listening to the voice of the child? So it's not just our role to do that, but how do we model that with like the parents that we support? How do we engage that? Catherine, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, also data related on the kind of the nitty-gritty level, any pressure we can bring to bear on CharityLog and their future development in getting easier direct input from some kind of web-based platform into CharityLog, into family data would be really good, because it just eases another friction point and we get richer information that we can then work with from there. Less admin, always a good thing.
And Catherine thought about the future of CharityLog and AI, and we all just looked at each other thinking, like, is that going to work? Who knows? Who knows what the magic AI can
be ambitious. Let's be ambitious and see what comes out. That's a good idea. I think maybe Kamal and Alex and I can have a chat about sort of the interface between system and see how that can pan out. Anything else people want?
Vicky, I was going to, Michelle from Homestart Australia. Hi. We started in January to give an observational wellbeing score that we've added to CLOG. So that's been put onto CLOG. My challenge right now is extracting that data, because we need to demonstrate our impact for funding. But also because it's a sliding scale from 0 to 5, is extracting that other layer to report upon. So that's what we've done so far. The challenge is now just extracting it so we can make qualitative information available. But we've started just with that score, which is brought in from volunteers, diary sheets, and coordinators' reviews. So we can also see that we're aligning with what we are all seeing.
Is it a particular, what's the actual measurement, Michelle?
Well-being. It's well-being.
Just is that the old Homestart on a score of 0 to 5? How would you rate your well-being?
Yeah. Well, it's how we observe that child.
How you observe the child. Okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah, maybe we could include people from CharityLog as well, just in terms of the technical side of it. And beyond me, definitely, I don't know about you, Alex, because I'm not so close to the CharityLog myself as well. But I've actually taken notes. Thanks for sharing that. We can take a closer look into that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And Michelle, why can't you? What's the issue with pulling them out?
Because I'm not a technical whiz,
Okay.
but we're going direct to Charity Log to help
Yeah.
us to get those reports set up. So it's just a push button moving forward. Yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe just a simple guide, the how-to guide maybe that we need, isn't it? Yeah. So I think that's all we have time for 2 minutes past our dedicated time already. So I was going to share my screen, which is like a QR code. So we have this monthly practice development workshop. We always love to hear from you guys if you think you've got any ideas for the topics or any kind of feedback on our existing workshops or webinars. So do sign up to that. We've got the days already set for the rest of the year, so do have a look. And we'll also send out the evaluation after today as well, so you can give us any kind of like feedback ideas. We'll share the attached any kind of presentations and any links that we have included today. Yeah, hopefully we'll see you soon. Sometime next month. I think the July one is the 13th of July. But we haven't actually set the topic yet, so we'd love to hear from you. Okay, thanks a lot, and special thanks to our presenters as well, Sarah and Kamal, for your time. I think Kamal's left. So yeah, thanks a lot. See you soon then. Thank you.